The music was too loud. Or maybe it was just Aisha's head. You know how it is when everything just feels amplified. The clinking champagne flutes, the constant chatter, that booming bass thumping right through the fancy marble floor of her father's massive Accra mansion. This was it, their engagement party, hers and Kwame's. The golden couple, some blogger had already called them. Can you believe it? Aisha plastered on a smile, her eyes darting around the room. Kwame was over by the bar, locked in conversation with Femi, his best man, and let me tell you, Femi always looked skeptical. Kwame, though, he looked good. Expensive suit, probably cost more than my first car, no joke. Aisha took a tiny sip of her champagne. Tasted like regret. She caught her reflection. Perfect makeup, a diamond necklace from Kwame that probably cost a fortune, a dress that shimmered like crazy. The picture of happiness, right? Total lie. Her father, Minister Nkrumah, was holding court near the grand staircase, his voice that low rumble that means business. He's a man who gets what he wants, in politics, in life. And he'd decided Kwame Mensah, the tech millionaire, was the perfect match for his daughter. Now, Kwame was a good guy. Kind, smart, genuinely cared. But he was also her father's pick, another chess piece in the big game of power. And Aisha, just a pawn, really. She'd tried, you know? Had this whole dream of designing buildings, not just smiling for society pages. Had a sketchbook full of ideas hidden away. But her father, childish fantasy, he'd called it. Your future is with this family, Aisha, he'd said. And you don't argue with that tone. And this family needs strong alliances. Kwame was that alliance. His money, his connections, all part of the package. Aisha spotted Zola, her best friend, her bridesmaid, near the buffet. Zola, being a journalist, always saw everything. Aisha practically ran over, needing a friendly face, a break from all the fakeness. You look radiant, Zola said, but her tone was like super neutral. I feel like I'm in a cage, Aisha whispered, the smile finally dropping. A really expensive, really beautiful cage. Zola's eyes softened. Is it really that bad? It's complicated. Aisha glanced around. You gotta be careful who's listening. Kwame's a good man, but this isn't about love, Zola. This is about survival. Survival? My father, he expects me to play my part. And Idris, he's convinced this is the only way. Idris, her father's slimy advisor. The guy she thought she loved way back before he showed his true greedy colors. Now he was back, whispering about freedom, about a future where she'd finally be in control. But his plans? They always had a catch. What's Idris got to do with this? Zola asked, frowning. Aisha hesitated. Couldn't tell Zola everything. Not yet. He has a plan. A way for me to get my future. Away from my father. And Kwame? Kwame, he's part of the plan. Aisha's voice was barely a whisper. It has to work, Zola. Idris says there's no other choice. She didn't see Kwame walking up. He'd bailed on Femi, this weird feeling growing in his gut. He'd seen Aisha looking stressed all night, that smile never quite reaching her eyes. He only caught bits and pieces, fragments. Idris, no choice. Part of the plan. The words just hung there. Didn't make sense, but felt heavy. Kwame stopped. Cold knot in his stomach. What plan? What choice? And what did Idris Kuyate, a guy he just knew was bad news, have to do with any of it? He watched Aisha and Zola, heads together, whispering like spies. Aisha looked pale, her eyes darting around. This wasn't the happy, carefree woman he thought he knew. This was someone else. Someone with secrets. Big secrets. Kwame forced a smile, stepping forward. Everything all right, my love? Aisha jumped, totally startled. Kwame, yes, of course. Just girl talk. Her smile was too bright, too fast. And for the first time, Kwame saw it. The cracks in her perfect mask. That gilded cage? Maybe it wasn't just for her. Maybe it was for him too. The party ended, but those words, Idris, no choice. Part of the plan. They just kept replaying in Kwame's head. Like a broken record. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Sleep? Not a chance. Aisha was next to him, pretending to be asleep. Her breathing was too even, you know. He could feel the tension like a wall between them. Next morning, Kwame met Femi at their usual spot, this little chop bar near Kwame's office. Place always smells amazing. Fried plantain, groundnut soup. You look like you've seen a ghost, Femi said, stirring his walkie. Kwame told him everything. The whispers, Aisha's weird vibe. Femi listened, his face getting grimmer by the second. Told you, Kwame. Never trusted her. Or her father. Or that snake, Idris. It's just, I don't get it, Kwame said, rubbing his temples. What plan? What's Idris got to do with our wedding? Idris is ambitious, Femi said. And ruthless. Always looking for an angle. And Minister Enkrama, he's no saint. This whole marriage, it feels like a business deal. Kwame got defensive. Aisha loves me, Femi. Femi sighed. Does she, Kwame? Or does she love what you represent? Security. Getting away from her father? He leaned in. Remember Project Phoenix? That land deal that went bad a few years back? Cost you a fortune, Kwame nodded. Still a sore spot. Always suspected something fishy there, Femi went on. Deal was too good, then just poof. Seller vanished. Paperwork was a mess. Heard whispers back then about Idris Kuyate. Pulling strings. A cold dread just washed over Kwame. Idris. Again. You think Aisha? He couldn't even say it. I think you need to be careful, my friend, Femi said, his voice gentle but firm. Open your eyes. Don't let your heart make you blind. Kwame spent the rest of the day in a total fog. Tried to work, but his mind just kept replaying Aisha's words, Femi's warnings. He needed answers. Now. That evening, he faked a headache, skipped some dinner Aisha had with her family. Alone in their apartment, he started searching. Not even sure what for. Just something. A clue. Anything. Started with Aisha's desk. Slake, minimalist. Felt like a total creep going through her stuff. But that feeling in his gut? Too strong to ignore. Drawers were neat. Bills, receipts, invitations. Nothing. Moved to her bookshelf. Novels, poetry, art books. Then, tucked way at the back, almost hidden, he saw it. An old leather-bound ledger. Not Aisha's usual style. His heart started pounding. Pulled it out. Pages full of notes, sketches, financial stuff. Looked like a business plan. Super detailed. But not for a building or an art gallery. It was for some company he didn't recognize. And the numbers, huge. Millions of CDs, investments, acquisitions. Then, tucked inside the back cover, a small, slightly blurry photo. Aisha and Idris. Younger maybe, but definitely them. Standing close. Too close. Arms around each other, smiling at the camera. Not just a casual pic. There was history there. History Aisha had never mentioned. And scrawled underneath, in Aisha's handwriting, Project Phoenix. Kwame's blood ran cold. Project Phoenix. The failed land deal. The one Femi warned him about. He just sank into Aisha's chair, the photo shaking in his hand. The pieces were clicking into place. A horrifying picture. Aisha. Idris. Project Phoenix. It couldn't be. But there it was. A blurry photo and 2 words. Connecting his fiancée to a past betrayal. A past he thought was buried. That gilded cage? Way more sinister than he ever imagined. And he was trapped right in the middle. The wedding preps just kept rolling like this unstoppable machine. Seating charts, flowers. Minister Nkrumah was everywhere, micromanaging everything. His booming voice echoing through their new house. A gift from him, Kwame figured, with a whole lot of strings attached. The minister was obsessed with the prenup, his lawyers always hovering. Kwame played the part. Nodded at fabric swatches, tasted cake. But his mind, elsewhere. That photo. Project Phoenix. He needed to understand. Not just what Aisha did, but why. He started small. Innocent questions about her past, her dreams. Learned about her wanting to be an architect, her father squashing that dream. The constant pressure to marry well, be an asset. He saw glimpses of a younger Aisha before all this weight. One evening, found her in the study, hunched over that old sketchbook. The Project Phoenix ledger opened beside it. She slammed it shut when he walked in, face flushing. Just reminiscing, she said, voice tight. Kwame sat next to her. You never told me you wanted to be an architect. Aisha looked away. Silly dream. My father didn't approve. And Idris? Kwame asked, super casual. Did he approve? Aisha flinched. Her eyes darted to his. Idris? What's he got to do with anything? Just wondered, Kwame said. Seems involved in your family's business. The tension in the room? You could cut it with a knife. Her defensiveness? Basically a confession. He met up with an old associate from the Project Phoenix days. Guy also lost money. Over Yolaf race, the man laid it all out. Deception, manipulation. Idris Kuyate right at the center. Smooth, that one, the man said, shaking his head. Promised us the moon. Then, poof, gone. Took a lot of good people down. The more Kwame learned, the more messed up he felt. Aisha wasn't just some cold-hearted villain. She was desperate, trapped, and Idris using her, playing her. Femi threw him a bachelor party. Loud, crazy. Kwame went through the motions, laughed, drank. But his mind was on Aisha. He had to know how deep she was in this. Her true feelings. Couldn't marry someone he didn't trust. But there was more to her story. He just knew it. He bailed early, said he was tired. But instead of going home, he drove to Aisha's parents' place. Knew she'd be there. Last-minute wedding stuff with Zola. Parked down the street. Watched the lights. Saw Zola leave first, looking troubled. Then Aisha came out, walking slow. Looked lost. Didn't mean to eavesdrop again. Seriously. But as he got closer, he heard her voice. Raw. Drifting from her car window. She was on the phone, probably with Zola. I don't know if I can do this, Zola, Aisha whispered, voice cracking. He's a good man. Doesn't deserve this. Kwame deserves better. A pause. But what choice do I have? Father, Idris, they've got me backed into a corner. This is supposed to be my freedom, but it feels like another cage. Kwame froze. His heart just ached. So it was true, all of it. But hearing it from her, sounding so genuinely tormented, it changed things. She wasn't just a con artist. She was a prisoner, trying to buy her way out. And he, Kwame, was the price. He slipped away, mind reeling. The anger? Still there. Cold knot in his stomach. But now, something else. Understanding. Maybe even pity. Wedding was in 2 days. He had a choice. Call it off, expose her, save himself? Or was there another way? A way to flip their whole twisted game? Kwame drove home. City lights blurring. The plan forming in his head got sharper, more focused. Aisha wanted freedom. Maybe he could give it to her. But not in the way she or Idris or her father ever expected. The wedding day. Bright, hot. Accra sun just beating down. Kwam's suite at the Labadi Beach Hotel. Thick with expensive cologne and nerves. Femi was fussing with Kwame's kente cloth. Golden green, super vibrant. Total contrast to how Kwame felt inside. You sure about this, Kwame? Femi asked, voice low. Not too late. We can say food poisoning. Sudden family emergency. Kwame met Femi's worried eyes in the mirror. I'm sure, Femi. This needs to happen. He adjusted the kente. Felt heavy, like the decision he was carrying. The hotel gardens. Insane. Color, sound. White chairs, silk drapes, crazy flower displays. Traditional drummers beating this rhythmic pulse. Guests mingling, laughing. No idea about the drama about to unfold. Aisha, breathtaking. Her gown, this mix of Western style and Ghanaian design, shimmered when she walked down the aisle with her father. Minister Nkrumah beamed, playing proud dad. But his eyes? Sharp. Calculating. Scanning the crowd, sizing up the power gathered there. Kwame watched her come. His face? Unreadable. He saw the anxiety in her eyes, her hands trembling a little as she clutched her bouquet. Beautiful, yeah? But also fragile, like a porcelain doll about to break. Ceremony started. Christian rites, Akan traditions. Pastor talked about love, commitment, marriage. Kwame listened, his mind a total mess. Remembered Aisha's whisper in the car. Kwame deserves better. Did she mean it? Or just another act? Then the vows. Aisha's voice. Soft. Hesitant. To love, honor, and cherish. Her eyes met Kwame's. For a split second, he saw something real, vulnerable. Regret? Fear? Or was he just imagining it? Kwame's turn. Took a deep breath. Talked about love, sure, but also trust. Honesty. The foundation of a real partnership. Every word, carefully chosen. A little jab at Aisha's conscience. A marriage without trust, he said, his gaze locked on hers, is like a house built on sand. It cannot withstand the storms. Aisha's smile faltered. She shifted. Looked at her father, then at Idris. Idris was among the groomsmen, this smug, self-satisfied smirk on his face. Ugh! Minister Nkrumah, totally clueless about the tension, gave this long speech while they signed the register. praised the Union family tradition, talked about their bright future, a future Kwame knew tied to the minister's own political ambitions, even made some pointed remark about loyalty, looking right at Kwame, a subtle reminder. Zola next to Aisha looked pale, stressed, kept glancing at Aisha, frowning. Kwame saw her lean in, whisper something. Aisha just shook her head, face tight. The rings, symbol of eternal love, right? Unbroken promises. Kwame took Aisha's hand, cold, trembling. He slid the gold band onto her finger. His touch lingered. Then, leaning in close so only she could hear, he spoke, soft. In Twi, their shared language. Den. What do you want me to do? Aisha's breath hitched. Her eyes widened, searching his. A storm of emotions in them. Fear, confusion, this desperate plea for what? Forgiveness? Understanding? Escape? Her lips parted, like she wanted to speak. But nothing. Just stared at him, her composure totally crumbling. The vibrant kente, the flowers, the drummers, all faded. In that moment, just Kwame and Aisha. Silent battle. The fate of their sham marriage hanging by a thread. Kwame held her gaze. His face, unyielding. He'd asked the question. Now he waited. Her move. The reception was in full swing. Music, laughter, champagne, small chops everywhere. But underneath all that, you could feel the tension. Kwame stood up, tapped his glass. Room went quiet. This wasn't the usual happy celebratory speech. Nope. Thank you all for being here, Kwame started, voice calm. Measured. Aisha and I are so grateful to share this day with you. He smiled. Tight. Almost predatory. And in the spirit of sharing, I have a few special gifts for my beautiful bride. Aisha, next to him at the head table, looked uneasy. Her father beamed. Probably expected some over-the-top diamond necklace. Idris smirked. Probably thought Kwame was about to gush about how much he loved Aisha, cementing Idris's own twisted plans. Kwame gestured to Femi. Femi walked up, holding a small, fancy-wrapped box. Aisha, my love, Kwame said, his voice dripping with irony you could almost taste. This first gift is a reminder of where our journey began. Aisha unwrapped it. Inside, on silk, a tiny carved wooden phoenix. Her breath caught. Her eyes shot to Kwame, then to Idris. Idris's smirk. Gone. Project Phoenix, Kwame continued, voice still deceptively mild. A venture that taught me a valuable lesson about trust and about those who might try to exploit it. A fiery bird, reborn from ashes. Pretty symbolic, don't you think? A murmur went through the crowd. Minister Nkrumah's smile? Faltering. Big time. Next, Femi brought a slightly bigger box. This, Kwame said, is for your incredible eye for design, my dear. Inside, a beautiful empty sketchbook, identical to the one Aisha kept hidden, and a single expensive fountain pen for all those dreams you've yet to draw. Perhaps now you'll have the freedom to pursue them. Aisha's face? Pale. Staring at the sketchbook, hands shaking. Zola reached out, put a comforting hand on her arm. Third gift, small velvet pouch. And finally, Kwame said, his voice hardening just a tiny bit, a token of security. Aisha fumbled with the drawstring. Inside, glinting under the fancy lights, a single antique key. This key, Kwame announced, his gaze sweeping the room, landing on Minister Nkrumah, then Idris, unlocks a small property I recently acquired. Charming little house just outside Accra. Fully furnished, all utilities paid for a year. And it's in Aisha's name. Solely. He paused. Let that sink in. A place where one can be truly independent, free from obligations. Aisha stared at the key, tears welling up. This wasn't the public humiliation she was expecting. This was surgical, devastating. He wasn't just exposing her. He was giving her the very thing she'd betrayed him for, but on his terms, stripping away the power she thought she'd grabbed. Idris jumped up. What is the meaning of this, Kwame? This is hardly appropriate. Appropriate? Kwame cut him off, voice finally losing that calm edge. Steel now. He gestured to Femi again. Femi produced a sleek tablet. Perhaps we should discuss what's appropriate, Idris. For example, is it appropriate to embezzle funds? To manipulate a vulnerable young woman into a scheme to defraud her fiancé? To, shall we say, attempt to resurrect a phoenix from the ashes of other people's trust? On the tablet, Femi swiped through documents, bank statements, incriminating emails. Evidence, irrefutable. He discreetly showed the screen to Minister Nkrumah. The minister's face? Ashy. He looked from the tablet to Idris, then to his daughter. Fury. Horror. Realization. The room was dead silent, except for Aisha's quiet sobs. Security guards, who Femi had quietly arranged earlier, moved towards Idris. Minister Nkrumah, seeing his own career about to go up in flames, made a quick, brutal decision. He gave a curt nod to the guards. "This man," the minister announced, voice shaking with rage, pointing at Idris, "has betrayed my trust. He will answer for his crimes." Idris sputtered, tried to protest, but the guards were already dragging him out. His dreams of power and wealth? Poof, gone. Aisha sat there, broken, the key clutched in her hand. Her father wouldn't even look at her. Zola put an arm around her. Silent support. Kwame looked at Aisha, not with hate, but with this profound sadness. He'd won, but it felt empty. He leaned down. "The house is yours, Aisha," he said, barely a whisper. "Be free." Then he turned and walked away. Away from the wreckage of their wedding. Away from the whispers, the stares. Didn't look back. The sounds of the reception, the music, the shocked murmurs, fading. Stepped out into the warm Akron night. Ocean air. Felt a release. The gilded cage was broken. For both of them. Kwame walked towards the waiting car. City lights a blur. He whispered, so quiet you could barely hear it. A final, definitive end.